What are you seeing from South Carolina? What did you see from them coming out of spring ball that makes you so confident that at minimum they're a top 25 team?
Yeah, I was doing the top 25, and it's always a useful exercise. And a lot of people like to go back, like, oh, you got this wrong. You
Right.
overhyped this team. I think I'm a firm believer that South Carolina is going to surprise some people, right? Like I said, they have a very, very tough schedule, but
Mhm.
I think that they have the ammo there to, put some teams on upset alert. And it goes back to that quarterback position. Like I said, it's still a quarterback driven, game. If you have an elite quarterback, and I think you look at the entire landscape of college football, I think you can count on one hand how many elite quarterbacks there are.
Mm.
And it's Bryce Young of Alabama, Caleb Williams of USC, who took Spencer Rattler's seat at Oklahoma. Rattler's in there, and CJ Stroud. I think, well, yeah, that's a whole another conversation. I could talk about an hour just about CJ Stroud and kind of the hype around there, whether it's him or everybody else. But I still think you can throw him in there definitely. And then Sam Hartman's also an intriguing one. He's just perfect for what Wake Forest does. But if you have an elite quarterback, I think you're going to be a good team. And I think you go back, kind of like what I was saying, just the weapons that he has at his disposal, and you look at those guys that they're stealing. I mean, Juice Wells, you saw a little bit too in the spring game, but what he did at James Madison. I mean, we actually developed a metric here at PFF. We had one a few years ago. Our R&D director of research and development, Eric Eager, did a good job with this, developing a WAR model for college wins above average. And we developed one recently for the FCS level because it's a little bit different from the FBS metric. But Juice Wells, I mean, he was one of the most valuable players in college football over the last couple of years. I think he was top 5 actually, and doing that when not being a quarterback is supremely hard to do. I think that's going to translate. And you look at Jaheim Bell, he can be, of course, a dynamic weapon. Everybody knows that. You saw what he did in the bowl game, which I think was probably one of the most absurd performances I've ever seen. I think he ran like 7 routes and he like 5 receptions, it just blew up. And then Austin Stogner, if he can get back to his old form before that late injury in 2020, a staph infection, lost a bunch of weight, and kind of threw everything off. I think he can get back too, and all indications are that he's kind of trending that way. I mean, you got a squad there, and I think again, you have an elite quarterback. You're there. The secondary is in good shape, led by Cam Smith. Maybe they can get some of those 5 stars on the defensive line groomed a little bit. You see those flashes that they've had. Definitely. I mean, I was going back watching them on special teams, and you can see it. I mean, those dudes can move for their size. So if they can develop those guys, they're in a good spot. So I think it's a lot of if with South Carolina, right? Some teams are maybe a little bit more established. Like NC State, I think they were in that ballpark. They're a little bit more established. I think they have a pretty well-known floor, just given the team they have. But with South Carolina in particular, I just see a high ceiling football team, and I think with an elite quarterback again, you're going to get some interesting results there. It's going to be tough for some teams. So it kind of goes back to the whole theme of this conversation. I think people are very much underrating Rattler's capabilities. Again, I encourage anybody, go back, watch every throw from this season, go back from every throw in the 2020 season, act like you haven't heard of anybody talk about him at all. And you're going to think he's a special star talent, because that's what he is. So that kind of is the driving force as to why they're a top 15 team for me. And so I'm excited to see what they can do. I think they're going to make for a very interesting division there in the SEC.